Lovely. All right. Hello, everyone at NarraScope. Welcome to Australia, just for a short while. We are currently 6:30 a.m., so I hope you're having a really good time, because we are not.
It is early.
It's very early. No, we're very thrilled to have been invited, and we wish that we could be over with everyone who is over currently at NarraScope, but unfortunately we're trying to launch a game a talk we're giving about a narrative engine that we've built in Unreal, specifically for our game Dead Static Drive, which is releasing soon. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we built it, the design decisions behind it, the software engineering behind it, and the narrative driven decision making that we had to come up with to solve all of our problems.
All of our problems are solved.
Problem solved. So an introduction to who we are. This is Leena.
Hi.
And I'm Mike.
That's Mike.
Hi. We're the creative producer and creative director at Reuben Games. And for more information and media about our game, you can go to deadstatedrive.com, or you can check us out on Blue Sky. We used to use Twitter, no longer really using that no more, for reasons that should be obvious. Leena has a long history in making narrative-based video games, and I do not so much.
And I'm on the board of the Interactive Fiction Technology Foundation, who's putting on this lovely event. So thank you, everyone, for coming and showing your support. Thank you so much. Yeah. And Mike's done a lot of game dev too. We've both been in the industry I've been around 12, 13 years, and I think Mike's been a bit longer.
A bit longer if you count indie games at home that you make for yourself. But
I do count that.
Yes. Then I have been for maybe 20 years.
Yeah. And I taught interactive storytelling at a couple of universities here in Melbourne for about 7 years as well. So it feels like a culmination of all of our experience to come through into this game, which is coming out next month. That's why we're not traveling over there to see you all, even though we wish we were there. It's amazing that we're dressed and here at all, to be honest. But we're troopers. We're here. So that this is a culmination of a lot of experience from the both of us coming in together into testing our mettle and seeing what we can get done with everything we've learned. So
the narrative side from Leena, and the game design and software engineering side from me. So briefly, an introduction to our game, because this talk does go a decent amount into specifically solving the problems that we have. So it's just important to let you know what the game's about. We describe it as Grand Theft Cthulhu. The world's ending, you're low on gas. It's an open world adventure game. It's survival horror-ish. It's a kind of Grand Theft Auto-ish. You're a character who runs around them through the world and can drive vehicles. And there is a big story, and there is a narrative that we wanted to tell as part of it. So it's weird horror, weird fiction, Lovecraftian-ish.
Lots of ish.
Yeah.
Lots of ish.
The narrative requirements for the game. Originally, I wanted to make a game that had a story that you could play from the start to the end, and that would be determinative. Okay, so inspired by It Came from the Desert, which is an old game that some of you might have heard of, that where when you start playing the game at certain days, at certain times, if you're in certain locations, events will play out for you. You'll meet someone will come to your home on day 3, and you have to be there. And if you're not there, you can't take part in that story. And I love that. I think that's fascinating. The idea that you can set up a story kind of like Groundhog Day, we're not in the time loop sense, but just in the sense that every time that Bill Murray wakes up, the day plays out the same way. If he's in the right place at the right time, he will meet the same people. And so he gets to interact with that and play around with it and be like, well, what if I was there a day early? What if I avoided that person? Would my day be better? So that kind of storyline, determinative story that every player can play from the start to the end, in the same way if they play the same rules. But if they change their behavior, then they can change the story.
Yeah.
So it's a mystery story that you can alter. The game needs to track complex stories for each character, because the idea behind it, right, is that there's all of these different.
There's the characters.
There's the board of our characters behind it.
Yeah.
So the game tracks what all of these characters are doing throughout the world. It's a large map where not everyone's loaded at the same time, because it's a really large play space. It's an entire county, and there's about 25 towns. I should know that off the top of my head. And so we need all of the storylines to be running at the same time and to still be determinative, so that it will play the same whether you're in the zone or not. So that's one of the important kind of core requirements of it. And it's got to be determinative regardless of whether the player's intervening in the story or not. We need it to play the same if the player's in the town and they see the story play out in front of them, or if they're not there, that it still plays the same.
Because we like to make things easy for ourselves.
We do.
Yeah.
Another design requirement, just to make it hard, I'm not a really big fan of cutscenes, and I usually skip them when I am playing a game, because I don't like the story to be delivered in a way where I just have to sit there and watch it. It doesn't engage me, and so I like to be engaged, and I like the kind of Half-Life storytelling where you can still control your character while something's happening. And so we've taken that and we've gone one further. There's no cutscenes. The story scenes play out with you at the same time, and also the AI doesn't get turned off for all of our non-player characters while you're interacting with them and having a conversation with them. If a creature comes into the area, then you are still playing a game with creatures and you're still talking to the NPCs at the same time. And so we wanted to support that. So we're blending between traditional AI and scripted story at the same time, depending on what's happening.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have a dynamic, systemic game, a game that's really systems based, where you're running around with an NPC, they're a part of your party, but you can still talk to them and have a conversation with them and shoot monsters at the same time.
Yeah. When we say AI, obviously, we mean the good one, not the bad one.
We're not talking about generative.
No. We're talking about the behavior model.
Behavior model AI. Yeah. Kind
of. Just to clarify. Don't burn me down.
And so some challenges. You'll see there's a map on the right-hand side. That's a small snippet of the world map, but it's most of it. But it's a number of towns that are interconnected in different ways by roads. You can drive between the towns, but each of the dots on that map is its own individual playable location. Like you can see on the left-hand side there. And the playable locations are made up of a number of buildings and small roads, and then you drive out of that town to a new town, and it unloads the old one and it loads a new map in. So not the entire world is loaded all at the same time, just an individual town. And so we do have a large game world. We do have procedural levels as well. And so that map, the pink one there that you can see, that's just one generation of that map out of many. And we can change the seed, and then we can regenerate a new map. So players can see a different version of the whole game every time they play. And so that throws a little bit of a challenge in there for scripting behavior, because we can't just say, I want the NPC to move over to the gas pump, because there may not be a gas pump there. So we need to support different kinds of environments at the same time.
Yeah, just before we move on that slide too, one of the moments or the feelings we wanted to capture when designing this game was sort of that wind in the hair feeling of a road trip. It's a road trip survival horror kind of game. And one really important part of road trips for me anyway is sort of that bonding that you get to do with whoever's in the car with you, the chats you have, and when you're not necessarily running errands, you're actually having like deeper, meaningful conversations, or you're listening to music, or you're doing those things. So between the towns, we wanted to have you can fast travel if you want, or you can actually sort of bond with the character that's in the car with you, that's in your party. You can ask them questions. You get to know each other a bit better. To me, that's the juicy stuff. That's the closest thing to a cutscene we get, and it's not really a cutscene because you're still traveling, you're still moving, but it's in that sort of in between these two generated spaces. And you've got music on in the car, and you've got the chance to bond, and that to me is really a juicy bit that I really enjoyed writing those conversations and to get to know the characters a little bit more. Yeah.
And just to answer that question, the town layouts, the part that's procedurally generated is the actual town, where the buildings are, where the roads are when you're inside a town. But all of the towns on the right hand side, that Texaco map, that's the fixed layout, and so the whole world map is fixed.
Yeah.
But the individual town placement of buildings and roads generated.
Yeah, the entrances and exits might be a bit different each time.
Yeah.
But general same direction. That town's over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More challenges that we had, because we wanted an emergent design. We wanted it to be a little bit like a Deus Ex-y game where you can approach problems in different ways. You can try and be stealthy. You can try and break in. You can come in guns blazing. We wanted to encourage different kinds of play. And so because of that, because monsters can come in at any time, because you might be in the middle of a conversation when you're trying to be stealthy, the scripted scenes can be interrupted by monsters. They can play out in a strange environment that we didn't expect as well. And because of that, because we don't have cutscenes, events can be interrupted by the player, by NPCs, by monsters, by nature, by fire, by physics. A monster might burst out of the ground, a giant worm bursts out of the ground and hits a car, and the car comes flying past your characters as you're in the middle of having a deeper meaningful. We need to support that and make it feel.
Yeah. That's why we sort of wanted to put those bonding moments and those deeper meaningful sort of away from that challenge, to sort of sequester it so that you're not in the middle of getting to know Heather better and you're starting to really think she's an interesting person, and then a monster comes in, and then now you know you're getting distracted. Most of the conversations that happen or something else in the world might interrupt. It's usually action-based, plot-based stuff, and the real character development and the character stuff is sort of in those spaces between towns, because we need to sort of couch that and make that special. I think I do anyway.
You've done a good job.
I'm a pusher with that. I'm trying to make it special and sit on that side. Yeah.
Okay, so the way we've broken this whole the challenges down into a system that we can actually make happen is we've separated our narrative system into two different layers. We have the storyline layer, which is the big picture story. So a character moves to a different town on certain. In chapter 1, a character might move to a different town. In chapter 3, then someone attacks you. Okay, and that is scripted using a storyline system, like a nodal network that we've built, and we'll show you that in a second. That does the overarching story, and then the moment to moment, the story scenes cover dialogue and a player giving an item to an NPC and then getting something back in return, and what's actually happening at the time. So the way we kind of break it down is the storylines will happen regardless of whether the player is there or not, and the story scenes only play out in front of the player as kind of an interactable cutscene at the time. So the storylines, they're a narrative state machine. It's the broad strokes of what happens in the game, big picture stuff. It can be used for any kind of scripting though, because it's a nodal network and it just gets processed. It doesn't have to be about a particular character. It can be used, like we use it for the weather system as well. We make sure that at certain times in the throughout the story, the weather changes in ways that we want, but then it also loops through. It goes from windy to rainy to sunny to windy to rainy, depending on the time of day and the time of the week. So what we've just loosely designed this nodal network that has a state machine, which is a bunch of different nodes, and we're in a current state right now. And then there are conditions in which we'll traverse to different nodes. And then when we get there, there's occurrences that play out. So this is an example of this is our story here. You'll see it. That's the game's story, and this is just a small story that we've broken out of the storyline for a politician who begins in a town called Brightwater, and he's canvassing at the start of the game, and then in chapter 2 he wants to destroy evidence that he's committed some crimes, and so the he wants to move to the police station and get help breaking in there, and he will do that regardless of whether he's in the player's party, the player's met him or not. And then after that, if the player interacts with that story, there can be a police station showdown and a fight. So the way that we break this down and we get it into the engine is we have to take that simple story and we have to work out what the conditions are to traverse to the next node so that we can try and put it into the engine. So we start off canvassing in chapter 2. He wants to destroy evidence. And then when he is at the police station, once he's moved there, then the showdown can happen. But because you can have the NPC join the party, that means that we need to also support other variations of a storyline. So we have an in-party state. When they're in the party, if they leave the party, then depending on which part of the storyline we were up to, if it was chapter 2 or not, then he returns to Briarwater and then he can join the party again. Once it gets to chapter 2, then we can traverse to the wanting to destroy evidence. And then if he ever joins the party from there, then he will go back to the police station for the showdown sequence. So ultimately, every one of our stories starts off fairly simplistically, but then we have to try and support the richness of all of the different ways that you can interact with characters, and especially if they can join your party.
Which about half of them can.
About half of them can.
Otherwise, we don't have time to, make sure they all work.
Yeah.
So you have to stop somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've used a plugin called Generic Graph. We've expanded it so it supports all of the occurrences that we need to happen when we're traveling to new parts of our story, when we're traversing these nodes in the node graph to get to different parts of the story. So we have a condition in which the story will progress, and it could be someone's in your party, go to the next part of the story, or have you met another NPC? Have you spoken to another NPC? Have you had a conversation? Once you've had that conversation, then they can progress to a different part of the story. And the occurrences, whenever the story reaches a certain node in this storyline, the occurrences are things like the player can be given money, the NPC will play a new scene, and so when you're in the same location as them, they'll play a different scene as they would have before, and that's how we trigger the scenes, the interactable cutscenes to play. And the scenes, they're the moment to moment. Okay, so this is when you meet Heather. This is the first time you've met her. Your car breaks down. You have a conversation with her, and then she can join your party.
Yeah. We had to switch to PDF because switching from Windows to Mac ate our slides and made them really ugly. So this was a video, and I will post it somewhere, maybe in the discussion channel or something at some point. I can drop the video in there. But yeah, what happens here is your car breaks down. Heather approaches you to see if she can give you a hand trying to fix it, and then that's sort of how you've come across her, and then she becomes a more important part of your story as the game goes on.
Yeah, and because it's an interactive cutscene, she starts fixing your car for you and says, "Hey, you can go have a look in the store if you want." And then you go in the store, and she's still fixing your car, and then she'll come in. She'll say, "Yeah, we're done. How about I can get a lift with you?"
Yep.
And all of that needed to be supporting other NPCs maybe being with you at the same time, monsters appearing, police appearing.
Yep.
So the scripted events, they're complex, they're location based. So we did actually fix some locations in the world, even though it's a procedural map. Some parts of the town are always in the same location, so that we can guarantee say the place where Heather works will definitely be there, but then we fill out the rest of the map around that. We need, for the storyline system that we design, how we actually create these and how we author them to be easy for us to script and easy for us to look at the node network, the blueprint, and then understand which direction the story is playing out in and what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
But also we needed to make sure that it handled interruptions well because of the dynamic nature of the game, so that if you are interrupted in the middle of gameplay, then we need to be able to say, "Oh, look, monsters have attacked. We're meant to be having a conversation, so break out and then come back to that part of the storyline later." So the way we solved it is we've got a system of latent nodes in Blueprint. Okay, so Blueprint's the visual scripting language in Unreal, and typically when you're creating Blueprint nodes, they will perform something and then perform something else if it's connected, and then perform something else. And then once it's done all of that, you go to the next frame of the game and it'll perform one thing. But using latent nodes is fantastic because it's a way of creating behavior that you can start and then it'll just happen in the background. And then once that behavior is finished, the next node will be activated. So in this slide, you can see I've got the delay node is one that's built into Unreal. But then we've got the NPC line node. That's another latent node that we've made. And that's a line of dialogue that an NPC says. And then the next node in the graph doesn't get executed until the NPCs finish that. We've also got NPC playing an animation and saying a line at the same time. We've got NPC move to actor. We've got NPC try to engage in combat. And then the next node won't play until the combat's over. And what we've got, you can see in that move to actor node, we've got a success result, a failure result, and then a fatal result, as in like something's really messed up. The NPC's trying to move somewhere and there's a timeout and they haven't been able to reach it. So how do we solve that problem? And so it's our way of looping back and making sure that behavior gets kind of kicked off again. Yeah.
Yay, this part where I'm a shell. I'm not being paid to say this, but Airtable rocks my world. We put together I can't remember his name. I have to look at Tom something. I'll find the link and I'll share it. Wrote a really good Medium post on sort of baking in good practices about localization at the actual like beginning of writing your copy. So this is where a copy lives, and all the metadata that's important for Unreal to talk to as well. We've got, say, columns for, we blurred it out because we're cowards, but game tag IDs that Unreal talks to, the copy itself, editing suggestions, anything like that, and a context comment. Not pictured in this slide is the other columns that keep going. So there's like a localization comment one, localization. The idea there is that we can just send this whole thing out and get it localized, ready to go, instead of having to go through everything and pull out, spreadsheets and data tables and all the horrible stuff. But the genius of it is that Mike has made a tool that talks to Airtable and Unreal at the same time, and it goes back and forth with the important information that both of those things need. So might get you to explain the actual bit you did in the middle maybe, but
sure,
because that's magic to me. He just made them talk and I don't understand how that works. But you maybe walk them to this part and I'll have a look at these questions, see if we can answer.
Yeah, sure. So we write all the dialogue into Airtable. It has the copy in it and the localization data that Unreal needs. But that's in Airtable, we can't access it from Unreal. So we need to export it to CSV. And then I've written a tool that will pipe that CSV data into Unreal readable data, and then it gets loaded into Unreal. So we can edit things in Airtable, and then just with a couple of buttons, it'll get into Unreal, and then it will have all of our new gameplay tags for the dialogue. And that's the gameplay tags are our way of playing showing some text on the screen, or playing a line of dialogue that an NPC says, and it's bound to a gameplay tag so that we can guarantee that unique text is only referenced one time, so that when we're localizing it, we can just localize it one time, and it's a lot easier than the built-in system that Unreal uses.
And we just to tell you a bit more about Airtable itself, it's just for a second, it's like if Google spreadsheets and a database had a baby. Like it kind of does a bit of both, which means it has these custom views. So you can be like, show me a gallery view, and we've got like a character sheet that's got all the characters in it, and it looks a bit like these. And then you can do Kanban views, you can do, grids, you can do all sorts, and it sort of just spits out a different view with the same data. So you don't have to go over and make pretty spreadsheets for every little thing you want to do, which it just makes things so much faster. And it's, it's an amazingly strong, robust little tool. We've got one for audio assets as well, because they work across multiple computers and multiple, like, Mac, Windows, whatever. And we use it as a little database that has, all 4,000 of our sounds in there as the WAV, and then all the information about the WAV and where it is in, and it's really useful for keeping all those things together. So having something like that, like a main place where the copy lives, a main place where the audio lives, it just makes everything 10 times more simple. And when you've got someone like Mike on your team who can make a tool that makes them all talk to each other, I mean, that's the good stuff.
We love it. Yeah, and this is just Airtable has this wonderful stuff built into it that lets you see the full history of changes that have been made. So as our copy gets updated, as we start changing, we get editors editing it. Leena updates something that I originally drafted, or vice versa. Then we can go through and we can see the history, which is fantastic. It's nice to use a higher level tool like that. Yeah, but because we're using Airtable, if I want to write a line of dialogue, or if we want to put some new UI text up and we need to just test it quickly, we don't want to jump into Airtable, add data, put it into Unreal. And so I've added the concept of text injection, so we can just put a blueprint node down and say, I want to pretend that this is in the Airtable right now. Okay, this is the gameplay tag that I'd be using. This is the character who would be saying it, and they'd be shouting it. So all of the metadata that's available in Airtable, we can just hook it up and say, okay, what if I had this line of dialogue in our localization database? And once we've done that, we can just test out the game. But because of that, because we need to be able to write sometimes into engine, we also need to be able to get those text inject nodes and then somehow find them all and put them back into Airtable when we finally want to localize. And so we've got a text injector, which is a simple way of doing an advanced search in Unreal, and it will find every single one of those nodes that exist, and then we just pump it into another tool, and that just puts it straight into Airtable. And so we've got all of our data out of the engine, and we don't need to remove the text inject because it's smart enough to recognize that it has found that data in Airtable now. And so the dummy text that I wrote in stays there, but it looks at the gameplay tag that I suggested for it. And then if it finds it in Airtable, then it uses that data. So when it's localized, or it's been edited and the text has been changed, then it all gets updated in Unreal.
Isn't that cool? You might be able to answer this question that we've had in that chat too.
Yes, the NPC line node custom. Yes, it is. It's a custom version based off the delay node. It's a little bit different from that because we had to write new latent nodes, but they behave in the same way as a delayed node would work. It rather than waiting for a certain duration of time, it waits until the UI that displays the dialogue the character was saying has disappeared and said, I'm done. And then there's a callback that says that node should finish and move on.
Yeah. Should I skip this one? Give me this one.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
We're running out of time.
We're running out of time, yeah. So we'll quickly just go into some of the exception handling stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is another video I was going to show that's an example of what happens if the player starts shooting at the NPCs in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
And so we had to, when we were designing the scenes, we wanted to make sure that we designed it so that there was a layered system for how NPCs handle the stories that are happening. So how do we make sure that the NPC can access its non-scripted behavior? Okay, so if I've scripted an NPC to walk here, have a line of dialogue, interact with someone, but then action starts happening, what we've got is we've got a priority list. Okay, the highest priority is combat. And so if combat's happening, then we don't play the story scene. Then the story is below that. And then beneath that in priority is the action plan. So how someone decides to move around the world, traverse it, sit down in a chair, play an animation. The story overrides those things, those behaviors, where someone's just pretending to, serve a table or fill up a car with gas. If a story is playing, then that's got priority. But if combat's playing, then that's got the highest priority, and that's the way to make sure that they don't continue to do scripted things in the middle of combat. And then we have to have it so that we can pause nodes and resume them later. And so that's why we've got the different results from all of those latent nodes. Common exceptions that we had, I think we can probably skip this, that we just have to support lots of different varieties of things that might happen at the same time.
Yeah.
But this here is if the player starts doing silly things, it gets to a certain point where we're trying to support the player being able to do strange things, and then the NPCs would react and say, "Hey, what are you doing? You're trying to shoot me in the face." We at a point we have to just be realistic and say, if the player is not engaging in the game in good faith and doing silly things, then it's going to look silly. There's no amount of support that we can provide for that because we've only got a limited team and a limited budget. So if they're doing silly stuff and they end up with a game that looks silly, that's fine. We can just.
That's on you.
That's on you. That's
on them.
Yeah. I tried.
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah.
You got to meet us halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So future plans for the Novella system. What ideally we'd like to share it with people because we really like it, and for the type of game that we're making, we think it would be really useful. So we've considered a third-party tool, and we could support it, but we want to make games. We do not want to make tools, and it's not something that we really have a lot of energy to support when we're making games at the same time. But we have also talked about making it open source as a free tool set. And to do that, we'd need to extract all of the game specific code from it because there's a little bit of that tied into it, and make it so that it will work as its own plugin. And the important thing for us is that we're probably going to need to do that to make it generic for our next games anyway, to extract all of the dead state drive out of it and make it so that it's just a plugin of all things. So ideally what we'd like to do is get it ready for our next game, then get it open sourced, and then maybe possibly some people can help us make it better.
Yeah, please help. If this is at all exciting to you, let us know, because it's a really powerful little tool, and it's something that's sort of missing in Unreal. I'm not going to talk smack about Unreal, obviously we love Unreal, but as a person with a narrative background, some of those big engines are really intimidating, and so having ways like this that you could sort of creep up to the blueprints and not be scared by them and not having to do line by line code and all this sort of stuff. It's very, I think it's democratizing. It's good. It helps writers understand the ways that these machines work. And that's really important for us to be able to do, I think, especially in the future. If you can implement as well as write, we've got to be able to do that, right? So let's make that as easy as possible for people. That would be such an amazing thing to be a part of. That I'd love to do. I've got a question here about if there are multiple NPCs in a scene and a high priority event, combat story, happens to one of them, does it affect the others?
Yes, usually. Yeah. If a story cannot progress for whatever reason, then multiple NPC stories usually aren't handled as multiple scripts. They're usually handled as a single script. And so if the multiple NPC story is interrupted, then all of the NPCs that are part of that story will be interrupted. The only version that is different from that is if there was a story being played out for one NPC, and they were part of your party, and you'd taken them to a new location that has other NPCs.
Yeah.
But that's rare, and so usually there's not a problem with that. The two stories colliding at the same time.
Hopefully the player's preference is going to be the thing that makes that sort of come down either way. Like they'll choose one over the other. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming to our talk and for listening, and everyone online as well. Thank you very much. We have about 10 minutes for questions, I think, if you've got any, whether it's on Discord or in person. Thank you. Yay. Oh, typing. That's a good sign. Thank you. That was great. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Very much. Great talk, nerds. Thanks, Dweeb. Who would make open source tools, Paris? Who would do that? Great, thank you so much. But yeah, we'd love to work on that tool eventually. We've got to get the game out first, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
and then document it as well.
Yeah, and
Documentation is a critical part.
Docs. Just want to say thank you for been following since the early days. Excited to see your insights. Thanks so much, Reed. Thank you. That's so nice to hear.
It looks like
And
we
it's
have
just
an in-person question.
Oh, yay!
Perfect. Hello.
Oh, hello. We've got a bit of an echo.
Yes, we do. That's a bad thing. I'll type.
Maybe. Should I mute myself? Would that help? It's the Wizard of Oz. It does sound like the Wizard of
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Oz. Oh no. If it's an echo on our end, we can possibly mute ourselves while you ask the question. That might help. No, then the music came back.
The music kicks in. Yeah.
Oh, we've got typing. The question is the priority system part of the narrative state? Not explicitly.
Not really. No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah. It is part of the control system for how the pawn 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 characters in Unreal work. So they have their AI system. Their AI system has a behavior tree, and the behavior tree says, "I am currently in the middle of a story scene," but then the priority of that gets broken out as soon as they have a higher priority action, like a combat or fire or an injury or anything like that. So it's kind of a higher part of the control center narrative system.
Got more typing, that's good. And the sun's just come up over here, just so you know. 7:30 a.m. and the sun is just coming up now. People still have the headlights on driving past the studio. Not that I'm complaining, obviously, I'm having a great time. Got more typing. Great. More typing, more typing. Type faster. I should put that music back on. Vote from Drexel for this to be open sourced. Maybe students could help. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the beauty part of if it was open source, just like any open source tool, if there are people who are interested in using it, they can take it in a different direction. It doesn't have to just support what we had the time to do. It can be anything. It could be the best new tool in the world.
I love the idea. Sure. I love the idea of it going out into the world and coming back this whole new thing that we, barely recognize. That would be really exciting.
Yeah.
Following the game since you've been posting on co-host. Oh, rest in peace, co-host. About the main verb chart. Excited for the launch next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love our verb chart. It's the best. Excited for the launch next month. Thank you. Enjoy writing documentation. I also have access to some talented students.
That's good.
Oh, Margaret.
Oh, I love students.
You're lucky. We both love students. We both did a bunch of teaching for a long time and sometimes miss it until we remember all the marking and things involved. Is there a less extensive narrative system in Unreal to start out with for less experienced coders?
I don't believe there is. There undoubtedly would be some other tools in the marketplace. We haven't been using any of them, the third-party tools that people might have produced for the marketplace, because when we started working on this game, nothing existed. Unreal was fairly fresh at the time, Unreal 4 anyway. So I can't recommend anything necessarily, but hopefully something in the marketplace exists already. But Unreal's really, from the ground up, it's a first-person shooter engine, and so they haven't made a lot of narrative tools until recently. There haven't been a lot of people making narrative games in Unreal.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that it's intimidating and scary and that you shouldn't get in there, because it is actually, the more you play around with it, the more it makes sense. And I'm not a programmer at all. But the visual scripting, the way it's laid out, is really, really easy to understand once you stop being scared of it a little bit, because it does just go sort of left to right, like there's an electric current going through it, like you can sort of see it, you know, lighting up. And yeah, it's not as scary as it looks.
Ink has its own Unreal integration. That's very exciting.
That's great.
Yeah.
Some of them are limited to sort of dialogue trees and data tables and sort of just staying on operating on that level. So that's what we're excited about with sharing this tool with people, is that it's sort of that game world tool. So weather, you know, music, like all these things can be controlled by sort of a broader, bigger god figure, like, you know, like a god engine, like within Unreal. Yeah. Right, we've got some more typing. Thank you, Margaret. Volunteering students, I love that. Everyone's volunteering their students to us. That's wonderful. Overall, looks like a great system. Looking forward to the game and the tool. Thank you for sharing. Thanks, Rob. Thank you so much. That's really kind. Oh, good. Oh, we've got the street sweepers going through it, bringing out all the morning cliches. What, are we gonna have some birds
Lovely.
next? Yeah.
Thank you. I think we are probably done then. Thank you everyone for the questions and for turning up.
Yeah, and you can get in touch with us if you've got more questions. Don't hesitate. I probably won't reply to emails for the next month, but you know, after that, you might get a reply. Awesome. Thank you everyone so much, and thank you NarraScope for having us. Yay.
Thank you.